"Do you want something from me too, cowboy?" The Arapaho girl's quiet question. The cowboy walked into the small town with a tired look on his face. His boots were dusty, and his hat was pulled low over his eyes. He had been traveling for days, moving slowly across the land. The road behind him was long and empty, and the world ahead looked much the same. He did not smile. He did not speak. He simply moved forward, one step at a time. He was not a cruel man. He was not a kind man either. He was someone who had learned to survive alone. The desert had taught him to stay quiet, to watch carefully, and to never trust strangers too quickly. He had seen too much. He had heard too much. He had lost too much. That was why he preferred to travel alone, with only his horse for company. The town he entered was small and dusty. It had a few wooden buildings, a general store, a stable, and a simple inn. The sun was high in the sky, and the heat made the air feel heavy. People moved slowly, as if they were tired of the long summer days. Some watched the cowboy as he passed, but most kept their distance. They had learned to be careful around strangers. The cowboy tied his horse outside the inn. The animal looked strong, but it was also tired. It shook its head as if it wanted to rest. The cowboy patted its neck and then walked inside. The inn was quiet. A few men sat at a table drinking coffee and talking in low voices. The smell of bread and stew filled the air. The cowboy walked to the counter and asked for a room. The innkeeper looked him up and down, then nodded slowly. "Room's $2, the man said. The cowboy nodded and placed the money on the counter. He did not look at the innkeeper. He did not say thank you. He simply took the key and went to his room. His room was small, with a narrow bed and a small window. He sat down on the bed and leaned his head back against the wall. He closed his eyes for a moment. His mind was heavy. He felt like he had been carrying a large weight for a long time, and he did not know when it would ever be lifted. Outside, the town continued to move. People walked past the inn. Children played in the dirt. A dog barked at a cat. Life went on, even in a place that felt far from the rest of the world. The cowboy did not stay in his room for long. He stood up, brushed his jacket, and walked back outside. He needed food, and he needed to move again. But he also wanted to see the town. He wanted to understand the people who lived there. He wanted to know if this place was safe. He walked toward the general store. The store was simple. Shelves were lined with jars of spices, sacks of flour, and small pieces of cloth. The storekeeper looked up when the cowboy entered. "Hello?" the man said. "You new here?" The cowboy nodded. "Just passing through," he replied. The storekeeper studied him for a moment. "You look like you've been on the road for a long time." The cowboy shrugged. "It's been a long trip." The storekeeper nodded slowly. "If you need anything, just ask." The cowboy picked up a loaf of bread and a small piece of cheese. He paid for them and left. He did not speak more than he needed to. He did not want to start a conversation. He had learned that talking too much could lead to trouble. As he walked back toward the inn, he saw a small group of people standing near the edge of town. They were watching something quietly. The cowboy moved closer, curious. He did not expect to see much, but what he saw made him pause. A young girl stood near the group. She looked to be about 12 or 13 years old. She wore simple clothes, but her eyes were bright and calm. She did not look scared or nervous. She looked like she belonged to the land. She had dark hair and her skin was sun-kissed. She stood still as if she was waiting for something. The people around her spoke in quiet voices. They looked at her with a mix of curiosity and caution. The cowboy could not understand their words, but he could see the emotion on their faces. Some of them looked worried. Some looked angry. Some looked sad. The girl looked at the cowboy. She did not smile. She did not look away. She simply watched him with quiet attention, as if she was trying to understand who he was. The cowboy felt a strange feeling in his chest. He could not explain it. He had been alone for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to be seen by someone. He had forgotten what it felt like to be understood without words. He stopped walking. He stood still and looked back at the girl. She held his gaze. For a moment, the world seemed to slow down. The sun felt hotter. The town felt quieter. It was as if time itself was holding its breath. Then the girl stepped forward. She walked toward the cowboy with careful steps. She did not rush. She did not look scared. She moved with a quiet confidence that surprised him. The people in the group watched her. They did not stop her. They did not move closer. They simply watched, as if they were unsure of what might happen next. The girl reached the cowboy and stopped a few feet away. She looked up at him. Her eyes were steady. She did not speak. She waited. The cowboy did not know what to do. He had never been approached like this. He had never been approached by someone who seemed so calm. He felt a strange mix of curiosity and caution. "Hello," he said finally, his voice low. The girl did not answer. She simply looked at him. The cowboy felt his throat tighten. He realized he was expecting something. He did not know what. He did not know why he was expecting anything at all. He had not expected to feel anything. He had not expected to care. He looked at the girl more closely. She had a small necklace around her neck. It looked simple, but it seemed important. Her hands were clean, and her posture was straight. She did not look like a child who was afraid. She looked like someone who had learned to be strong. The cowboy took a step closer. "Are you lost?" he asked. The girl shook her head slowly. She still did not speak. The cowboy looked around, trying to find someone who could help him understand, but the people nearby kept their distance. They watched, but they did not come closer. The cowboy realized that the girl might not speak the same language as him. He realized that he might not understand her, and she might not understand him. He felt a sudden sadness. He had traveled so far, and he still could not find someone who could truly understand him. He took a deep breath. He tried to calm his thoughts. He looked back at the girl. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. The girl's eyes moved slightly. She seemed to think. Then she nodded once, as if she understood his question. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small object. It was a piece of cloth, folded neatly. She held it out toward the cowboy. It was not a gift. It was not a weapon. It was simply a piece of cloth with a simple pattern. The cowboy looked at it carefully. He did not know what it meant. He did not know if it was important, but he felt the weight of the moment. The girl's expression stayed calm. She did not smile. She did not frown. She simply waited. The cowboy felt something inside him shift. He realized that this girl was not trying to scare him. She was not trying to trick him. She was simply trying to communicate in her own way. He slowly reached out and took the cloth from her hands. The fabric was soft. The pattern was simple, but it felt meaningful. He did not know why, but he felt like the cloth was a message. The girl nodded again, and then she spoke. Just one sentence, in a quiet voice. The cowboy did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. It was not angry. It was not afraid. It was calm and it was sincere. He looked at her, waiting for her to speak more. But she did not. The cowboy felt his heart beat faster. He felt like he was standing at the edge of something he did not understand. He felt like he was being invited into a world he had never known. He looked around again, hoping someone would explain what was happening. But the town remained quiet. The people stayed at a distance. The girl was the only one who stepped forward. The cowboy realized that he could either walk away or stay. He could pretend nothing happened and continue his journey. Or he could choose to listen. He chose to listen. He took a deep breath and spoke again, slowly. "I don't understand," he said, "but I'm listening." The girl's eyes softened slightly. She nodded once, and then she looked down at the cloth in his hands. For a moment, the cowboy felt something like hope. He did not know what the future would bring. He did not know what the girl wanted. He did not know what her question meant, but he felt something inside him that he had not felt in a long time, a sense of connection. The girl stepped back and the group of people began to move again. The town returned to its normal pace. The sound of the wind returned. The sound of the horses returned. The world continued to turn. But the cowboy did not forget the girl. He did not forget the quiet moment when she stepped forward and looked at him without fear. He did not forget the feeling that he was being seen, not as a stranger, but as a person. He stood there for a while, holding the cloth in his hands. He thought about his journey. He thought about the places he had been. He thought about the people he had met. He thought about the life he had built for himself, one day at a time, and then, slowly, he began to realize something. He had been traveling not only to move forward, but to escape. He had been running away from something. He did not know what that something was yet, but he knew that the girl's quiet presence had made him feel something he had not felt in a long time, the possibility of belonging. He looked down at the cloth again. He did not know what it meant, but he knew it was important. He knew it was a sign. And for the first time in a long time, the cowboy felt like he might not be alone after all. The cowboy sat at a small table in the inn, eating the bread and cheese he had bought. The food was simple, but it tasted good. The room was quiet, and the sun outside was slowly moving toward the west. The day felt long, but it also felt different. The cowboy could not stop thinking about the girl. He kept looking at the cloth in his hands. It was small, but it seemed to carry a meaning he could not yet understand. He did not know her name. He did not know her tribe. He did not know why she had chosen to give him the cloth. But he felt a strange feeling inside him, as if the cloth had opened a door he had closed long ago. He had been alone for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to connect with someone. He finished his meal and stood up. He decided to walk around the town again. He needed to clear his mind. He needed to understand what was happening. Outside, the town looked calm. People were finishing their work and heading home. The air felt cooler now that the sun was lower. The cowboy walked slowly, taking in the sounds and smells of the town. He saw a woman hanging clothes on a line. He saw children playing near the well. He saw men repairing a fence. Everything seemed ordinary. But the cowboy felt that something was not ordinary. He could still feel the girl's presence, even though she was not there. He could still feel the moment when she had looked at him. He could still feel the quiet question in the air. As he walked, he noticed the same group of people from earlier. They were standing near the edge of town again, watching something. The cowboy felt a sudden curiosity. He walked closer, careful not to make a mistake. He did not want to cause trouble. He simply wanted to understand. When he reached the group, he saw the girl again. She was standing with the same calm expression. She looked at the cowboy, and this time she did not look away. Her eyes seemed to say that she was waiting for him. The cowboy stopped and watched her. He felt nervous. He did not know what to do. He did not know if he should approach her. But he felt like he could not ignore her. He walked closer. The people around her moved slightly, but they did not stop him. It was as if they were giving him permission to speak with her. The cowboy did not know why, but he felt grateful for their quiet acceptance. The girl stood still, and the cowboy stood in front of her. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. There was no rush. There was no fear. It was a quiet moment, like a pause in a song. The cowboy spoke first. "You came again," he said softly. The girl nodded. She did not speak. The cowboy took a deep breath. He wanted to ask her many questions. He wanted to know why she had given him the cloth. He wanted to know what she wanted from him. He wanted to know if she was safe. But he also knew that he had to be careful. He did not want to make her feel uncomfortable. He did not want to make her feel like she was being judged. So he spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. "I don't know your language," he said, "but I want to understand." The girl's eyes softened. Opening this, she nodded again. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small piece of chalk. She drew a simple circle on the ground. Inside the circle, she drew a line. The cowboy looked at the drawing. He did not understand it, but he could see that she was trying to communicate. He knelt down and looked more closely. The circle looked like a world. The line inside the circle looked like a path. The cowboy looked up at the girl. He realized that she was showing him a path. She was showing him that the world was not only a place to travel through, but a place to belong to. She was showing him that he did not have to stay alone. The cowboy felt a strange emotion rise in him. He felt the desire to trust her. He felt the desire to listen. He felt the desire to learn. He stood up and spoke again. "You want me to stay?" he asked. The girl nodded. The cowboy's heart beat faster. He had never been asked to stay anywhere. He had never been invited to be part of something. He had never been told that he belonged. He looked around at the people watching them. They looked calm. They looked hopeful. He realized that the girl was not only speaking for herself, she was speaking for her community. She was inviting him to be part of something bigger than himself. But the cowboy also knew that the world was not always kind. He knew that people could be cruel. He knew that his presence could cause problems. He knew that the town might not accept him. He looked at the girl again. He wanted to ask her a question, but he did not know how. Then he remembered the cloth she had given him. He held it in his hand. He looked at the pattern. He saw that the pattern was simple, but it had a meaning. It looked like a small story. He realized that the cloth was a sign of trust. She had given him something that mattered to her. She had shared a piece of her world with him. He felt a deep respect for her. He felt a deep gratitude. He felt a deep sadness, too. He knew that she had taken a risk by coming to him. The cowboy took the cloth and held it up slightly. He wanted her to see that he understood. He wanted her to know that he would not disrespect her gift. The girl watched him closely. She seemed to understand his gesture. She nodded again. The cowboy then did something he rarely did. He spoke honestly. "I don't know if I can stay," he said, "but I want to try." The girl's eyes widened slightly. She smiled just a little. but it was a small smile, like a quiet sunrise. It was not a big smile, but it was enough. Oh! The people around them began to move away slowly. They gave the cowboy and the girl space. They seemed to understand that this moment was important. The cowboy and the girl stood in silence for a moment. The wind moved through the grass. The sun began to set. The sky turned orange and pink. The town looked peaceful. The cowboy felt a feeling he had not felt in a long time. He felt calm. He felt safe. He felt like he was not alone. He looked at the girl and asked, "What is your name?" The girl looked at him, thinking. She said her name slowly, and the cowboy tried to repeat it. The name sounded beautiful, but the cowboy could not say it correctly. He tried again, and the girl smiled softly. He nodded. "I will remember," he said. The girl nodded in return. The cowboy realized that this moment was the beginning of something new. He realized that his journey was changing. He realized that he was not only traveling through the land, he was traveling through a new way of life. He looked down at the cloth again. He felt the weight of it in his hands. He knew that the cloth was not just a piece of fabric. It was a symbol. It was a symbol of trust, of invitation, and of hope. The cowboy turned toward the town and walked back to the inn. He felt a new energy inside him. He felt like he had a reason to stay. He felt like he had a purpose. He did not know what the future would bring. He did not know if the town would accept him. He did not know if the girls' community would accept him. He did not know if he would be able to stay. But he knew one thing for sure. He had been seen. He had been invited. And he had decided to listen. The cowboy woke up early the next morning. The room in the inn was quiet, and the first light of dawn moved through the small window. He sat on the edge of the bed, holding the cloth in his hands. The cloth felt softer now. It felt like something that belonged to him, but also something that belonged to someone else. He thought about the girl. He thought about her calm eyes and quiet smile. He thought about her asking him to stay. He thought about how strange it felt to be invited by someone he barely knew. He thought about how long it had been since anyone had asked him to be part of something. He stood up, washed his face, and walked outside. The air was cool and fresh. The town was waking up. People were starting their day. A few horses neighed in the distance. The world felt calm. The cowboy walked toward the edge of town where he had met the girl. He wanted to see her again. He wanted to know if she was still there. He wanted to know if she still wanted him to stay. As he walked, he noticed something different. The people in town were watching him more closely than before. They looked curious. Some looked cautious. Some looked like they were trying to decide if he was a good man or a bad man. The cowboy felt the weight of their eyes. He did not like it. He had traveled for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to be judged. He had forgotten what it felt like to be watched. But he kept walking. He kept moving toward the place where the girl usually stood. When he arrived, he saw her again. She was standing near a small tree, holding something in her hands. She looked at him and nodded. She did not speak. The cowboy walked closer. He noticed that she was holding a small bundle of herbs. The herbs smelled sweet and fresh. They looked like something that could be used for medicine or for cooking. The girl held them carefully, as if they were precious. The cowboy looked at the herbs and then at the girl. He wondered what they meant. He wondered if she was trying to give him something again. He wondered if she wanted him to understand her world. The girl reached into her pocket and pulled out a small stick. She used the stick to draw a shape in the dirt. It was a simple shape, but it looked like a path leading to a circle. Inside the circle, she drew another line. The cowboy looked at the drawing carefully. He tried to understand. He felt like she was telling him a story without words. He felt like she was showing him something important. The girl looked at him and then at the herbs. She held the herbs up and then pointed toward the town. Then she pointed toward the land outside the town. She was trying to show him that the herbs belonged to the land. She was trying to show him that the land had gifts to offer, if people respected it. The cowboy nodded slowly. He understood a little. He understood that the girl wanted him to learn about her world. He understood that she wanted him to see the land through her eyes. He felt a deep respect for her. He felt a deep curiosity. He felt a desire to learn. The girl then did something surprising. She stepped closer to the cowboy and placed the herbs in his hands. The cowboy looked at her in shock. He did not expect her to give him something so personal. He held the herbs carefully. The smell was calming. He felt like the herbs were a message. They were a message of trust. They were a message of welcome. The girl looked at him again. She seemed to be waiting for him to understand. The cowboy took a deep breath. He looked at the girl and spoke slowly. "You want me to learn?" he said. The girl nodded. The cowboy's heart beat faster. He had not expected her to be so direct. He had not expected her to show him so much. He felt honored, but also nervous. He did not want to disappoint her. He did not want to break her trust. He looked around at the people watching them. They were still there. They were still watching. The cowboy realized that they were not just watching him. They were watching the girl too. They were watching what she was doing. He wondered what they thought. He wondered if they were proud of her. He wondered if they were worried for her. The cowboy decided to speak to them. He stepped closer to the group and bowed his head slightly, showing respect. He spoke slowly and clearly. "I want to learn," he said. "I want to understand your ways." The people looked surprised. Some of them nodded. Some of them looked unsure. But no one spoke. The girl looked at the cowboy and smiled softly. It was a small smile, but it felt warm. It felt like a sign that she trusted him. The cowboy felt a sense of relief. He felt like he was not alone anymore. He felt like he had found a place where he could belong. The girl then led the cowboy toward the edge of the town. She walked slowly, as if she knew that the cowboy was not used to moving in this way. She wanted him to feel comfortable. She wanted him to understand. The cowboy followed her. He felt the ground beneath his feet. He felt the air on his skin. He felt the world in a new way. The girl stopped near a small area of land outside the town. It was a quiet place with a few trees and tall grass. The sun was shining softly. The world felt peaceful. The girl pointed toward the grass and then toward the sky. "I was working to repair from Cowboy that the world was connected." She was trying to show him that everything had a meaning. The cowboy looked around. He saw the land in a new way. He saw the beauty in the simple things. He saw the grass moving in the wind. He saw the birds flying. He saw the sun shining. He felt a sense of calm he had not felt in a long time. The girl then sat down on the ground and motioned for the cowboy to sit too. The cowboy hesitated for a moment, but then he sat down. He sat with his legs crossed, like she did. He felt strange sitting on the ground. He was used to sitting in a chair or on a horse, but he felt comfortable here. He felt like he was in a place where he could breathe. The girl looked at the herbs in his hands. She nodded, as if she was happy that he had accepted them. She then pointed toward the sky again. She looked at him and spoke softly. The cowboy listened carefully, even though he did not understand her words. He watched her lips move. He watched her hands. He watched her eyes. He tried to understand the meaning behind her words. He realized that the girl was telling him a story. He realized that she was sharing her culture with him. He realized that she was giving him a gift that was more than just herbs. It was a gift of understanding. The cowboy felt his heart soften. He felt his mind open. He felt like he was finally learning something that mattered. He looked at the girl and said, "Thank you." The girl nodded again. She smiled softly. The cowboy then asked a question. "Do you have a name for this place?" he asked. The girl thought for a moment. She pointed toward the land and said a word in her language. The cowboy tried to repeat it. He did not say it correctly, but the girl smiled anyway. The cowboy nodded. He felt honored to learn a new word. He felt honored to be included in her world. They sat together in silence for a while. The wind moved through the grass. The sun continued to shine. The world felt calm. The cowboy felt a sense of peace. He felt like he had finally found a place where he could rest. He felt like he had finally found someone who saw him as more than a stranger. He looked at the girl and thought about her question. He remembered the first time she had asked him if he wanted something from her. He remembered the way she had looked at him. He realized that her question was not about gifts. It was not about food or money. It was about connection. It was about trust. It was about belonging. The cowboy felt a deep emotion rise in him. He felt grateful. He felt hopeful. He felt like he was finally beginning to understand what it meant to be part of a community. He looked at the girl again. He smiled softly. He did not know what the future would bring. He did not know if he would be able to stay. He did not know if the town would accept him. He did not know if the girl's community would accept him. But he knew one thing for sure. He wanted to try. He wanted to learn. He wanted to belong. The cowboy returned to the inn that evening with a new feeling in his heart. He felt tired, but it was not the kind of tired that comes from hard work. It was the kind of tired that comes from learning something new. It was the kind of tired that comes from feeling your heart open after a long time of being closed. He sat on his bed and looked at the cloth again. The cloth felt warm, like it had been held by many hands. He wondered what it meant. He wondered what story it held. He wondered why the girl had given it to him. He thought about the day he had spent outside the town. He thought about the way the girl had led him to the quiet land. He thought about the way she had spoken without words. He thought about the feeling of calm he had felt. He realized that he had been living in a world that was full of noise. He had been traveling through places where people spoke quickly, where people fought, where people rushed. He had been living in a world where people were always trying to get something. But the girl's world was different. Her world was calm. Her world was slow. Her world was connected to the land. Her world was full of meaning. The cowboy looked at the clock on the wall. He realized it was late. He stood up and walked to the window. The moon was shining brightly in the sky. The town looked quiet. The stars looked peaceful. He thought about the girl. He thought about how she had asked him to stay. He thought about how she had shared her world with him. He thought about how she had trusted him. He knew that he had to make a choice. He could leave the next morning and continue his journey. He could go back to being alone. He could go back to traveling without meaning. He could go back to feeling like he did not belong. Or he could stay. He could try to learn. He could try to be part of something. He could try to become someone who mattered to others. He looked at his boots. He thought about his horse. He thought about the long road behind him and the long road ahead. He sighed. He did not know what to do. The next morning he decided to visit the girl again. He wanted to talk to her. He wanted to ask her more questions. He wanted to know if she truly meant what she had said. He walked toward the edge of town. The air was cool and fresh. The sky was clear. The birds were singing. The girl was waiting for him. She stood near the same tree, holding a small basket. She looked at him and nodded. Her eyes were calm. The cowboy walked closer. He noticed that the people in the town were watching him again. They looked more curious than before. Some looked worried. Some looked hopeful. The cowboy felt the weight of their attention. He felt like he was being judged. He felt like he had to prove himself. He stopped near the girl. He looked at her and spoke slowly. "I want to stay," he said, "but I need to know if it is okay." The girl looked at him. She seemed to understand. She nodded. The cowboy felt his heart beat faster. He felt like he was standing at the edge of a new life. He felt like he was about to step into something that could change him. The girl then led him toward the town. She walked slowly, as if she wanted him to feel safe. The cowboy followed her. As they walked, they passed the people who were watching them. Some of the people smiled. Some of them nodded. Some of them looked unsure. The cowboy felt a mixture of hope and fear. He wondered what they were thinking. He wondered if they would accept him. He wondered if they would trust him. The girl led him to a small building near the edge of town. It was a simple place, made of wood. It looked like a meeting place. It looked like a place where people gathered to talk and share stories. The cowboy had never been in a place like this before. He had never been part of a community that gathered like this. He felt nervous. The girl opened the door and stepped inside. The cowboy followed her. Inside, a group of people sat in a circle. They were quiet. They looked at the cowboy and the girl as they entered. The cowboy felt his heart beat faster. He felt like he was being judged again. The girl walked to the center of the circle and stood tall. She looked at the people around her. She spoke in her language, and the people listened carefully. The cowboy could not understand the words, but he could see the way the people responded. Some nodded. Some smiled. Some looked serious. The girl then looked at the cowboy and spoke again. She pointed toward him and then toward the people. She seemed to be explaining something. The cowboy felt a sudden fear. He wondered if he had done something wrong. He wondered if the people would reject him. He wondered if the girl had made a mistake. Then one of the elders stood up. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. He looked at the cowboy and then at the girl. He spoke slowly in English. "You are welcome here," the elder said, "but you must respect our ways." The cowboy felt a wave of relief. He felt like he could breathe again. He felt like he had been given a chance. The elder continued. You must learn our language. You must learn our customs. You must be honest. You must be kind." The cowboy nodded. He felt a deep respect for the elder. He felt grateful for the chance to stay. The elder then asked the cowboy a question. "Why do you want to stay?" he asked. The cowboy thought for a moment. He looked at the people in the circle. He looked at the girl who had brought him here. He thought about the feeling of calm he had felt outside the town. He thought about the way the girl had trusted him. He spoke honestly. "I have been alone for a long time," he said. "I have been traveling without purpose. I want to learn. I want to belong. I want to be part of something good." The people in the circle listened quietly. Some nodded. Some smiled. Some looked thoughtful. The elder looked at the cowboy for a long moment. Then he spoke again. "You will have a chance," the elder said. "But you must show us that you can be trusted." The cowboy nodded. He felt a strong determination inside him. He felt like he was ready to work for this. He felt like he was ready to change. The girl then stepped forward. She handed the cowboy a small object. It was a simple bracelet made of beads. The beads were small and colorful. The bracelet looked beautiful, but it also looked meaningful. The girl placed the bracelet on the cowboy's wrist. The cowboy felt a warmth spread through his hand. He felt like the bracelet was a sign of trust. The girl looked at him and smiled softly. She then spoke in English for the first time. "Welcome," she said. The cowboy felt his eyes soften. He felt a tear form, but he quickly blinked it away. He did not want to cry in front of them. He did not want to show weakness. But he felt a deep emotion inside him. He felt like he had finally found a place where he could belong. He felt like he had finally found a community that accepted him. The elder spoke again. "Tomorrow you will start learning," he said. "You will learn our language. You will learn our customs. You will learn our stories." The cowboy nodded. He felt a strong sense of purpose. He looked at the girl. Now, he looked at the people in the circle. He felt grateful. He realized that he had made the right choice. He had chosen to stay. He had chosen to learn. He had chosen to become part of something good. And he felt ready. The next morning, the cowboy woke up early. He felt different now. He felt like he belonged somewhere. He felt like he had a reason to live beyond traveling alone. He looked at the bead bracelet on his wrist. The beads were small, but they felt important. They felt like a promise. He dressed quickly and walked outside. The sun was rising, and the town looked calm and peaceful. The air was fresh. The sky was clear. The cowboy felt a sense of hope. He walked toward the meeting place. The girl was already there, waiting for him. She smiled softly. "Oh." She nodded at him. The cowboy smiled back. He felt grateful for her. They walked together toward the open land outside the town. The girl spoke in her language, and the cowboy listened carefully. He did not understand all the words, but he tried to understand the meaning. He watched her lips and her hands. He watched her eyes. And out, the girl stopped near a small stream. The water was clear and cool. The sound of the water was gentle. The cowboy felt calm. He felt like he was in a place where he could breathe. The girl looked at him and pointed to the water. She then pointed to the sky. She was teaching him about nature and how everything is connected. She was teaching him that the land is not something to control, but something to respect. The cowboy nodded. He felt the truth in her words. He felt like he was learning something that mattered. The girl then took out a small book. It was not a book like the cowboy had seen before. It was a small notebook with blank pages. The girl handed it to him. The cowboy looked at the notebook. He did not understand why she was giving him a book. He did not understand what he was supposed to do with it. The girl pointed to the notebook and then to the sky. She then made a writing motion with her hand. She was telling him to write. She was telling him to record what he learned. The cowboy felt a deep emotion. He realized that she was asking him to remember. She was asking him to keep the stories alive. She was asking him to respect the land and the people by remembering their lessons. He nodded slowly. He opened the notebook and looked at the blank pages. He felt a sense of responsibility. He felt like he was being trusted with something important. The girl smiled softly. She looked at him with a calm expression. She then spoke in English, slowly and clearly. "Write what you learned," she said. "So, you don't forget?" The cowboy nodded. He felt a strong determination. He felt like he was ready to learn. They walked back toward the town. Along the way, the girl pointed out small things, the names of plants, the sounds of birds, the way the wind moved. She explained things slowly, as if she knew that the cowboy was learning for the first time. The cowboy listened carefully. He tried to remember everything. He tried to understand the meaning behind her words. He tried to respect her world. When they returned to the town, the people were waiting. They were ready for the day's lessons. The elder stood in front of the group and looked at the cowboy. "Today you will learn," the elder said. "You will learn our language and our stories. You will learn how we live with the land." The cowboy felt nervous, but he also felt excited. He felt like he was finally becoming part of something real. He felt like he was finally becoming a person who mattered. The elder began to teach. He spoke slowly, and the cowboy repeated the words. The girl sat beside him, helping him with the pronunciation. She smiled when he got a word right. She gently corrected him when he made a mistake. The cowboy worked hard. He listened carefully. He practiced. He asked questions. He tried to understand the meaning of the words, not just the sounds. The day passed quickly. The cowboy learned many new words. He learned how to greet people. He learned how to say thank you. He learned how to speak respectfully. He also learned about the stories of the people. The elder told him about the land, about the stars, about the animals, and about the history of their community. The stories were beautiful. They were full of meaning. They were full of life. The cowboy felt his heart open. He felt like he was becoming a different person. Now, he felt like he was no longer alone. As the sun began to set, the people gathered together again. They shared food and talked quietly. The cowboy sat beside the girl. He looked at her and smiled. The girl looked back at him. She smiled too. It was a small smile, but it felt warm. The cowboy realized that the day had been important. He realized that he had learned something that mattered. He realized that he had been given a chance to change. He looked at the people around him. He saw their kindness. He saw their patience. He saw their strength. He felt grateful. He thought about his old life. He thought about the long road he had traveled. He thought about the loneliness he had felt. He thought about the time he had spent running away. He realized that he had been running from himself. He realized that he had been running from the idea of belonging. He looked at the girl and thought about her quiet question. He remembered the first time she had asked him if he wanted something from her. He remembered the way she had looked at him. He realized that her question had not been about gifts. It had been about connection. It had been about trust. It had been about hope. He looked at the girl and spoke softly. "Thank you," he said. The girl nodded. She looked at him with calm eyes. She did not speak. She did not need to. Her presence was enough. The cowboy then looked at the sky. The stars were shining brightly. He felt a deep sense of peace. He felt like he had found a place where he could belong. He felt like he had found a new home. He knew that he still had much to learn. He knew that he still had much to understand. He knew that the journey would not be easy, but he also knew that he was not alone. He knew that he had been given a chance, and he knew that he had found something more valuable than he had ever expected. He had found trust. He had found friendship. He had found a new life, and as the night grew quiet, the cowboy closed his eyes and smiled. He felt the warmth of the bracelet on his wrist. He felt the calm of the land. He felt the presence of the girl. He knew that tomorrow would bring new lessons. He knew that tomorrow would bring new stories. And he knew that he would keep learning, one day at a time.